What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage in a weird world right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
boy.
what the fuck, dude? It's June, and does this year just keep getting weirder and weirder?
Well, considering last week we were talking about me going to Texas and my state's better than your state, and where we've gone from that point to this point
It's
is
unreal.
is it's absolutely insane, dude.
I
It
cannot
is.
believe how quickly the world has shifted in a matter of 5, 6 days.
Yeah.
I mean, just to think about what is actually going on right now. I mean, I'm sure everyone's very much well aware of what happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd, and him being murdered by a policeman on film, and the protests and the riots that have started across the country are insane. The president, for the first time in 220 years, was taken to the bunker below the White House. I don't know what else could get weirder in 2020. I mean, they've already released alien footage or UFO footage, and no one even blinked at that. So I am seriously afraid of what's out there to come the next 6 months that we have no idea that's going to happen.
I found a funny story that I guess even the Chinese are looking at us and saying, "Hey, why don't you guys get your shit together? We don't even do this in Hong Kong, okay?" So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's pretty bad when the Chinese are lecturing us about how to take
yeah,
care of our citizens' rights. That's not a good thing, man.
yeah. I read that China, Iraq or Iran, and Turkey are celebrating the fall of the United States. It's like, well, you're not really wrong right now. We're not
Yeah.
exact. This is not our finest hour.
No, no,
This is
no.
not our finest hour.
But
It's just weird, man. It's like for the last 3 months, it's been nothing but COVID-19, and now almost like the blink of an eye, it's gone. It's out of the media. No one's hearing anything about it. It's still raging on, but it's not nearly as prevalent in the news until this riot stuff goes away. Then I'm sure it'll come roaring back. So let's just call this the halftime of COVID-19.
a slight detour of COVID-19.
Yeah, yeah. Race riots, and protests are the halftime show of 2020. When we pick up the COVID second half in the fall, it'll be much worse, and we still won't be prepared as a country.
Yeah, it's just so funny how we've talked about this before, but sometimes when the things in the world that are in your world, right? Something happens on
Uh-huh.
day, let's say a Wednesday, and it's always so funny to me how then Thursday something happens out of the blue that relates exactly to what happened on Wednesday, and then something happens on Friday that then just laps into Thursday and Wednesday, and you're like, why is this all happening now? I've been around for almost 48 years, and these things have never come up in just random things that have happened. So on the way
Yeah.
home, on Friday last week, we were listening to documentaries, and one of the documentaries that I found really fascinating was about Facebook, but specifically it was about Facebook and its use of its algorithm to
Uh-huh.
spread posts and news stories and people's comments and statements throughout the world quickly,
Uh-huh.
like and it talked about how even under the best of intentions Facebook has that bad people can take advantage of that same algorithm to put very, very bad stuff out there. Well, right when we're listening to that, last week, the president signed the executive order against Twitter and Facebook and Google to basically take away Rule 230 of the federal code that gives internet companies protections against people who post things on their internet or post things on their website. It's like a protection that,
Mm-hmm.
we're not the editor, we're just putting it out there, but we don't do any editing.
Yeah.
So we're not responsible for someone putting something out there on the internet. Well, supposedly, I guess the president put a tweet on Twitter, and Twitter put a line on the tweet that said, "Please fact check." It was on mail-in balloting. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, they put a line on there saying, "Hey, you should fact check this." That upset the president to the point where now he's saying that maybe we should be taking away this code in the federal law that protects these companies, and so that we can stop them from taking away our First Amendment rights, or that they're held liable for doing these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it just opened up a really fascinating discussion on our car ride home about all of these companies. Should protection be granted to them? What is the role of Facebook when it comes to the dissemination of information? Or what is the role of Twitter to protect certain people from violence, or to protect false things from coming out? It was really fascinating. I think what's so interesting was all of this came around at the same time, and then that weekend we had all the riots because of the things that were posted about George Floyd and all the rioting that happened over the weekend. And it's a crazy time, but I thought it was just crazy that all this stuff came together at once. So, isn't
it weird how all this is just kind of starting to circle as the one perfect storm? I mean, does that not seem a little weird to you when you really just kind of lay it out like you just did?
Yeah, I mean, and random things, This all started with, think about this. All of this culmination started with one tweet for at least for me. The tweet happened, I think, on a Tuesday that Twitter fact checked. Now, you know me, I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. I know Noreen has an account that she watches for our Facebook page, but I don't really get on it. So I don't really know a lot about how it works, how the algorithm works.
Well, let me be the first to say is I take every piece of news on Facebook with a grain of salt. I don't ever really use a lot of Facebook news material that people share, because of all the Russian troll bots from the election in 2016, and you don't know what's real and what's not. And I will openly admit that I use Twitter to get most of my news, but I've had to limit that over the last few months too, because it's just getting more and more insane. And the only news I use, I make sure the sources I use there are reliable, reputable news sources, not some freedom reporter living in his mom's basement wanting to report the down and dirty news, on the border.
They said that in the documentary I watched, they said that in 2016, 70% of the news that people were getting in 2016 about the election came from Facebook's news feed.
I would believe that.
So and what started really getting interesting was, if 70% of the news comes to us as a society through Facebook, and Facebook is not doing any editing, fact checking, validation to see if the news is accurate, what does that tell us?
That tells us that they're not doing their job.
And but here's the thing. What Section 230 says is Facebook is not an editor. They are not there to police the information. So they are not liable for what comes in through the information. None of it. And what I find interesting too, as I was doing my research for this podcast, was the president's order to maybe change 230, and the Democrats want to change 230 as well, but they want to change it for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
But it comes down to, we can find common ground. We don't have a common reason for why we want to do it, but we have a reason.
But we can make the change because we both know that change needs to be made.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that was interesting, because they gave an example on the Facebook documentary that during the 2016 election, a news agency or a news feed gave a story that the Pope supported or endorsed Trump for president. It was a total lie. Like that never happened. But when Facebook was asked about it, they said that, well, we just figured that our viewers wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So just like I don't watch it because I don't believe it. Yeah, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, no, I get it. The older generations that rely on Facebook to see their kids and family follow their news sources there too, and they get trolled all the time. I mean, it's an unfortunate byproduct of a generation that doesn't understand social media trying to keep up with social media.
And
it's
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say it's I can understand why the thought process out there is that those news sources can sway elections, because if you can say whatever you want and nobody's going to fact check you, you can say a lot of weird random shit and nobody's going to know the difference. So you might as well do it.
Well, and what was interesting too is the way that the algorithm works at Facebook. The more likes that something gets, the more prominent it gets on the news feed, which means that more and more people see it, and more people, see the news article. Any truth is only as good as how many people believe it. If everyone believes it, if 2 + 2 = 5, but if everyone believes 2 + 2 is 5, it's true, right?
I guess that's what the people say.
Yeah.
I mean, but you look at what happened there and how that snowballed into the rest of the week. I mean, while everyone was arguing over their protests and riots started in Minneapolis and just spread. And that quickly got swept under the rug. Like, I haven't heard anything about the Twitter and Facebook being sanctioned in probably 5 days. It's been probably since Thursday since I've heard anything. We're now recording on Tuesday, so it's 6 days.
I think it. I mean, obviously, when you're talking about riots, it's probably that's on the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also, in my opinion, when things like that happen, that's when you really have to watch, the people in Washington, because they'll slyly pass through things that we would normally want to pay attention to when the rest of the world is burning. Not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that's generally when the stuff they don't want us to know about gets passed.
Well, and one of the things that we found interesting is that the 230 rule was written in 1996, right? Well before any concept of Google, Facebook, Amazon, any of these huge companies was probably not even a blink of an eye, right? Not even a blink of an eye, a consideration when they wrote the rule to protect these internet companies. But now, with as powerful as these tech companies are, they were saying that this rule can also allow third-party sellers to sell counterfeit belongings in Amazon, and Amazon is not responsible. And Uber has used Rule 230 to contend that it's not responsible for someone who gets sexually assaulted in an Uber ride.
Well, I mean,
so the question becomes,
I don't want to sound.
What is the responsibility of a company? I mean, does a company that produces a product should they have a liability for that kind of stuff?
I don't want to sound like that guy, but if your lawyer's good enough, your company can get away with anything.
Right. And what the president is asking is for that 230 to be modified, changed, or removed, so that if someone is sexually assaulted in an Uber ride, that Uber could be sued because they were.
Is that why he's saying it, though? That's a nice excuse, but he just doesn't want to get harassed on Twitter when he lies. I mean, let's be real.
Well,
I mean, he doesn't like that little. This has not been a researched post. I mean, the man's been counted lying 19,000 times in 3.5 years on public record. So, of course, he's going to want that changed, but not for the reasons he's saying. It's a very sweet gesture to try to make people believe that, it's so this doesn't happen. But how often does that happen with Uber, to where the president's going to say, I need to do something?
Well, and I guess my question is, should Twitter be responsible for what? Should Twitter be held responsible for what's posted on their website?
Well, I think every company should.
So
I think if you're going to post on it, you should be held responsible for what you say, whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent.
Well, no, I'm not talking you. For example, if a cyber bully puts out their false claims about a child.
No, that's what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm saying both the company and the individual should be held liable.
Yeah, but no one's
if they're not going to fact check their stuff.
No, but no one's going to sue the individual. But you could sue Twitter if my son committed suicide. I could sue Twitter if they revoke 230. I could sue Twitter because they were the ones that allowed that post to go on the website.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do that.
Well,
I mean, you could do it if it happened.
But right now, that's exactly what happens. I mean, that you can't sue Twitter for something that causes an action to happen, but you can sue the Washington Post if they put a false claim on the news. You can sue them.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to what law can you hide behind and how good your lawyer, and that's what's happening right now. I mean, these guys are hiding behind an archaic rule, and until that
Right.
rule's
So I guess
changed,
I'm asking you.
and I agree with what you're saying.
No, do you think the
You
rules
know,
should
if
be
the president wants,
changed? I guess that's my question. Is
I think,
do you think the
yeah, I
rules
think
should
it
be
should be
looked
changed.
at and
I think
changed?
I think if you're going to allow something that's fraudulent and liable to be posted, you should be held responsible just like the individual posting it. I
And if
think
they
if you can sue a newspaper, you should, and the individual, you should be able to sue the internet company.
right, and right now you can't. Like you can't sue Twitter or Facebook for a false story. You can't sue them for that.
Well, that needs to change.
The other question that comes out too is why is Facebook even publishing news? You're a social media. That's social media. That's not news. So why are you
Well,
even publishing news on a social media platform like Facebook or Twitter?
that's a gray area that they can make money on, and at the end of the day, they're a business. They have to make money. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's how everybody's learning about these riots. That's how everybody's learning about what's going on right now, the protests. You know, that's why there's curfews in Arizona for 8 o'clock this week. I mean, it's social media's fault. It's glorifying what the hell's going on. It's people are trying to stay quote unquote informed, and they're looking at the sites they think inform them the best, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent. And that's part of the problem of the world we're living in right now is people rely too much on social media to get their information, and they don't get the proper information, and it creates tensions like we have right now.
Well, and because my first thought is if you took away Rule 230 and Twitter said basically, you know what, if I'm going to be responsible for what everyone says, then I'm not allowing anything that's political. I'm not allowing anything that's religious. I'm not allowing anything that's inflammatory. Is that then a violation of our First Amendment rights?
I don't know. It's a private company.
Well, but it is a private company, and but some might argue, hey, you allow me to put anything I want on there. Now you're saying I can only put certain things on there. It's dangerously close to saying it's censorship, right?
Well, I mean, I can put whatever I want on my company's page because it's my company. If I don't like what you're putting on there, I can censor you because it's my company. I think when you sign up, you agree to those rules. And if you don't like the rules you're agreeing to, you don't have that platform. It's pretty simple.
And does your company basically set the policy of what can and can't be said?
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I mean, I think
it's my company.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that what's given people this freedom of their voice is that these tech companies haven't stopped the anything from being said. So it's a fine line, right? Would you go on Twitter if they wouldn't let you say anything but stuff about your dog?
I mean, it's a lot better than what we're seeing right now. Maybe we wouldn't have all these race riots going on.
Yeah,
I mean that's the bottom line. If we stopped letting people post whatever the hell they wanted and stopped and just kept it light like it's supposed to be, then maybe, just maybe, the world wouldn't be on fire.
Well, I don't know about the world. I know the United States is certainly going through some struggles right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, I think there's a lot of countries celebrating the fact that we are not in our best moment. We are in the middle of a midlife crisis, as it were. And it's not looking like it's going to get any better for us anytime soon.
Right.
I mean, living in Scottsdale or Phoenix area for you, I saw the news, what happened to the Scottsdale Mall.
Yeah.
That's closed indefinitely now for all the damage that was caused by looters.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I know that they had shut down on Sunday, but I didn't know if they did anything more after that. So.
Oh yeah, the Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall is closed until further notice because those guys trashed it. They completely trashed it. Phoenix PD took care of everything Sunday night downtown before it got out of hand, but everyone up in Scottsdale just went nuts.
Oh gosh, awful.
Yeah, and up here in Kingman, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. They've had a peaceful protest downtown all day, and I've been watching the news on that, and it seems like it's going okay so far. But the day is young and people are stupid. So as long as nobody starts drinking, hopefully, we avoid any kind of stupid, rioting and pillaging downtown for downtown Kingman, because that's the last thing this little redneck town needs.
Yeah, I mean, I know that right now we haven't heard a lot about this, but over the next few months, I'll be really interested to see if anything changes with these codes that protects the tech companies. because my initial thought is since Twitter is the only thing that the president likes to really be vocal on, I don't know if he wants to take away that vehicle. Because if I'm a private company and I'm going to be held liable for what anyone says on it, yeah, I'm not going to be putting a lot of stuff on. I'm not going to be putting a lot of stuff out there, and that's his only tool to talk to the people. So who's he going to talk to then?
It's another veiled threat from him. I mean, he's not going to do anything about it. Once he realizes that he can't do what he does with it because he shot himself in the foot, he'll stop. I mean, that's what a lot of people don't realize is once he gets to the point, he's just trying to prove a point right now, and he doesn't know what that point is.
Well, I think though he may not be doing it for the reasons that other people have been wanting this change for years, but he is bringing to light a point that that maybe the laws or maybe the rules have to change a little bit to rein in some of this just wild, I think that the Facebook
I'll tell you this much. If shit's going to change with these codes, we're never going to hear about it. We will never hear a thing about it because those companies won't want us to know, and that's where everybody gets their news sources from. And some other major tragedy between now and then will happen.
Oh man, but if they made these companies liable, you don't think that we'd find out really quick?
No, because those companies won't want you to find out. They don't want to find out they have more legal exposure.
No, if even if you don't get news that they've changed that rule, the companies will get notified that now they're liable. I would think we're going to notice immediately because people are going to be posting more and more posts that get blocked or get taken down or people get thrown out of Twitter because the companies do not want to take the liability. I would think we're going to find out real quick if a rule change happens, because everything that we're so used to now would be just severely changed.
I don't know. I tend to disagree. I think that they're not going to want anybody to know because they don't want to go change their policies publicly like that and start throwing people off left and right. Because bottom line is, it's traffic. Traffic is what drives revenue, and if it hurts their revenue, they're not going to want a lot of people to know about it.
Even if the law is changed, I mean, if the law changes and they can be sued,
money talks.
So you think that they'd be willing to take more lawsuit risk and liability by not saying anything to the people and letting them produce whatever they want?
Oh, I think they just quietly take it down. I don't think they do anything about it. I don't think they want to make a big deal about it. I don't think we're going to hear anything about it.
Wow, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that they don't like to have those kind of legal things in the public eye, and I don't think this is any different. I don't think they're going to want us to hear anything about it.
You know what? For the first time in a very long time, I 100% disagree with you, Scott. This has never happened at least in a couple of years of Liquid Carnage.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's the companies like that don't want massive legal changes like that to be known by the public, even if it means they have to take more responsibility. I mean, I'm sure a company like Twitter will be all over because they've already started that. They've been proactive. I don't think Facebook will do anything because that's going to hurt them. They're not going to want people to know. They're going to ignore it as long as they can.
Let's be honest. Right now, we've run into the Facebook employees have already had disdain or have had silent virtual walkouts of Facebook because of a tweet or Facebook
the handling of the riots. Yeah.
So even the employees have started, speaking up against the way that Facebook has either not done anything or they haven't done the response that they would expect. So if the employees are willing to speak up and say something about it, I mean, geez, it could get really nasty.
Yeah, I mean, but it is what it is, though. Mark Zuckerberg's not going to do anything. He makes
well,
enough money.
In the documentary, they were saying that his mantra from the very beginning has been basically let's break it and then request request forgiveness after the fact. So you're right. He probably doesn't care because I think the one thing I find interesting about these young tech CEOs is they truly feel that they are all they want to do is good. That's all they want to do. And if people are doing it for bad reasons, then that's not their fault. Hey, we want this for good. If some evil person is doing bad things with it, that's not our responsibility. That's not our fault. And the reality is that, at some point it's your company, your name's on it. And if something gets posted that causes an issue, at some point you have to be slightly, you have a responsibility to the masses. And Facebook has 2 billion people on it. So what does that tell you? 28% of the population of the earth.
They'll throw some money at them.
That's crazy.
They'll make it go away. They're not going to care. I mean, every country has different laws. So if it hasn't already been affected by some laws or by some other countries, nah, they're fine. I'm not even worried about that with them. Like I said, this will be swept under the rug. Some other crazy murder locust hornets will happen. Sodomy geese, you name it. We'll be onto that before we even know what happens.
Well, I just hope that, I don't know, I hope that at some point I feel like all of us need to just kind of step back, pause for a second, and ask ourselves what we're doing. Because, the majority of people in the United States are good people. I firmly believe that. I think that the number of bad is much, much, much less than the number of good people. And yet all we focus on is the bad right now.
Well, it's because that's all we're seeing. That's all the news is going to show us. That's all social media is going to show us. They're trying to show us some of the positives with it, but they're going to dangle more of the bad. I mean, the world in 3 days has forgotten there's a world pandemic going on because all they're focusing on is all the other bad stuff. So amongst all of the bad stuff, there's still rampant infection rates are going to jack us for the summer and shut everything down again if we're not careful. It's a cycle of fuck. But that's what's happening right now, and it's a dark chapter in American history. And I don't think anybody wants to talk about it because it's such
for
a
those of you
war.
who would be interested in watching the full documentary, the full documentary was on Amazon Prime, and it was called The Facebook Dilemma. It was kind of fascinating. I had no idea how Facebook works. So for those of you who may know a lot about Facebook but want to learn a little bit more about the issues that they have with their growth strategies and how that affects what they're doing, it's a fascinating watch. It's on Amazon Prime, I think. I recommend if you have a couple hours to watch it. It is kind of interesting, and especially now with everything going on in our current events, it seems just even more timely than it was when it came out a couple years ago. So.
And if you're trying to get away from current events and just trying to shut your mind off for a while, I recommend anything Sasquatch related on Amazon Prime or Netflix. That's a documentary. It's a giant fun game of hide and go seek. It will take your mind off of everything, and that might not be the worst thing in the world right now. Just to step away from the media and just go do your own thing and realize there is good in the world. You just have to turn off the news and turn off social
Disney
media
Plus.
and go live
you can
it.
Go Disney Plus and watch a bunch of
or Disney
movies
Plus
on Disney Plus
or Disney. Yeah, you might try HBO Max. They have the entire Scooby-Doo collection on there, we found out, and the original Looney Tunes. So I don't recommend the new ones. The new ones are terrible, but the old ones are classics.
In a crazy world, man.
Absolutely. So tell us how you're going to step away from social media and the media for the next couple of days. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. Do that before you step away. And before you finally step away for a couple hours, hit up our EP Tom at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram, and give him a shout out to the Mile High City up in Denver. Hopefully he's up there wearing his Liquid Carnage swag, trying to recruit new listeners as he goes through the stores wearing his mask and gloves.
Wow, that was good. Hey, be safe, everyone. Okay, just know that you're loved on Liquid Carnage. We love everyone. Thank you for listening to us. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Carnage.